Hey guys, BJ and Race Day back again. You've got Joshy, you've got Bogan, as usual. Bogan, how you been, buddy? How'd last week go?
Yeah. Broke that 200 again, so I'm happy. I'm still down there at the bottom. I went up a few places, but then a few people joined the league, so I've actually went down the ladder.
Mate, it's good to see, obviously, a few people joining the league. I think we're up to about 42 now, and obviously anyone new watching the league at home, there's the code down the bottom, so you'll see that there each week. Hopefully we can get a few people as the season goes on. But, mate, yeah, look, obviously a little bit of an interesting week last week. I think, again, the first 3 weeks have all been pretty cruisy and pretty easy for, I guess, your season punters. Myself last week had a pretty average week considering all the other scores were out there. I bombed out with my captain. I did pick Avilius. I actually didn't change my team from last week. I know we talked about me sort of chopping and changing. From the video last week, I didn't change. I sort of thought, no, I'm going to stick with it. And cost me a few points not going Flit or Shadow Hero. So I slipped back in the points. I think I went from about 340th just outside the top 1,000. So not where I want to be, mate. Look, we can bounce back this week. This week is an absolute horror week for SuperCoach. I think we've used the phrase between the men and the boys, and this week we're definitely going to see it. 2 Group 1s for SuperCoaches, only 1 Group 1 for status, but the Everest for SuperCoach this week will be classed as a Group 1. And, mate, tough races all across the park. There's really no clear-cut winners like there have been in the last few weeks. So, mate, you've managed to put a team together this week?
I have, purely based off names, so I'm sure there's going to be some absolute shockers in there, and there's no doubt going to be a few horses you've probably never even heard of. So, all picked off names. Most based off things that reminded me of video games and songs that I like. But
mate, each to their own. Everyone's got their strategy. Everyone's got their strategy, mate. It might work for you.
Last week I went a Game of Thrones themed team, and Grey Worm got up in a Group 2 race, so I got a nice 50 grand injection into the kitty 25. For that. I
think it's 25 for a Group 2, but anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, I had a couple of winners using that method, but fortunately, was it Rhaegar didn't do too well? So, yeah.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. But look, guys and girls at home, obviously week 4 of SuperCoach now. You'll notice down the bottom, we just got the little PointsBet logo there. Anyone who's sort of been following all the SuperCoach Facebook pages. I've actually been working with PointsBet now. One of my close mates actually works for PointsBet, so they are the major sponsor of SuperCoach Racing from I guess, a betting agency point of view. A mate of mine works for them, and we're just sort of putting together all these graphics and that. So just to make it a little bit easier to correspond the SuperCoach search of horses with the prices, with the odds, and things like that. So, guys, we're not getting paid anything. Don't read too much into it. It's just the fact that... obviously helping out a mate sort of promote the company that he works for. They're helping us with the SuperCoach stuff. So you'll see their graphics come up through the video and that. So, yeah, just a good helping hand from them. And
and their graphics look a little bit nicer than ours, where we just take screenshots from the websites that anyone could just look up. Theirs are a little bit more professional. I wouldn't know how to use Photoshop if my life depended on it. So...
Mate, look, Dan sent me the first graphics of it, and he says to me, he's like, "Oh, Josh, you've got Photoshop, do you?" And I just said, "Oh, yeah, I've got Photoshop. Yeah, all good." Not realising that you got to pay monthly and weekly fees and all kinds of stuff. And I just thought it was some program you got on a computer for free. So
just to lift the curtain a bit on the BJ and Game Day production is that usually we only use the software that comes for free on Windows, so most of our graphics are usually made in Paint.
boys, we're cheap. We're cheap at home, guys. Like, it's actually me paying the weekly subscription for Photoshop. So yeah, look, definitely not getting anything out of PointsBet, but it's just good to have them on board. Obviously, rather than get the odds from everywhere and all different kinds of things, they're obviously the main sponsor of SuperCoach. So we're going to run with that.
And obviously we'll try and get some of those graphics up during the show, but also stay tuned to the social media, to the Facebook and the BJ on Game Day Twitter. Joshy will tweet those out as the races get finalised. So, yeah.
So you got the BJ and Game Day Facebook page, which obviously we run and we're sort of updating. We're getting good traction with that. But you've also got the SuperCoach Racing Addicts and the Horse Racing SuperCoach Fanatics page. So jump onto those guys if you're not already on them. I dare say most of you are, because sort of that's where we post these videos through. So, but yeah, so last week, mate, let's just do a quick recap. We had a few Group 1s last week. I think we had 5 in total. A couple of surprise winners, a couple of standard ones, that people sort of knew about. So your Shadow Hero got up at short odds. Plenty of people captained that one. You had Flit get up in one of the most amazing finishes I've ever seen. I think it was a nose by a nose, last bound kind of stuff. So it was a short price favourite and it got up as well. So plenty of people had that as captain. We saw Cape of Good Hope get up in, I can't remember what the race was called, but basically that was the race that Avilius was in, which it ran 4th. So that was a bit of a sting one for me. And we had a few other races as well. So the sort of a good score last week seemed about that 300 mark. There are a few guys who scored up to about 360, 350. So definitely more competitive last week than the first 2 weeks. I actually stuck to my average. I think for the first 3 weeks I've averaged 268. I'm sitting about 95 points behind the leader. So hopefully this week becoming a lot tougher. A lot tougher this week, guys. You're really going to have to use your whole budget this week, your whole salary cap, because there's no cheapies, or there's very few. We've got 2 Group 1s. We've got the Group 1 Caulfield Cup. So the Caulfield Cup, obviously, 150 years this race has been run. One of really the big 3 in Australia. You've got the Melbourne Cup, the Cox Plate, and the Caulfield Cup. Spring carnival racing at its best, but an open field. You've got 20-odd runners in this race, and the odds are, there's nothing dominant in the race. The barrier draw came out this afternoon. It's Wednesday night. The barrier draw came out this afternoon, and nothing really got an advantage out of the barrier draw. If the opposite, actually the favoured runners drew pretty ordinary out wide, which in a horse race isn't an advantage, because the closer you can get to the fence, as you can imagine, when you run around in a circle or an oval shaped, you run less distance and it's a little bit of an easier run. So you've got the Group 1 Caulfield Cup. The field will come up here, and Finch is your current favourite amongst a few other horses. As I say, it is pretty open. And then at Royal Randwick, we have the Everest, $14 million race. Unfortunately, no official classification for this one yet. Now, to be a group race, you do have to have run for a minimum of 3 years. This is the 3rd year for the Everest. So for super coaches, though, and for our racing competition, it has been classified as a Group 1. So a full 40 points for the winner. 12 horses in this field, and these are the best sprinters in Australia. Now, there's a couple missing that are through either injury or things like that. Again, look, this is one of the most open races every year. Red Zella's won the first 2 editions of this race, and it's actually going for the three-peat. We find it at $11 odds. But look, the favourite in the race is Santa Ana Lane. There's plenty of chances in this. If one of the horses at 20 to 25 to 1 got the victory, you wouldn't be surprised at all. I actually like a horse in this called In Her Time. I think it's $23 or $25 on opening bookies prices. I don't have it in my SuperCoach team, but I really like this horse. It's first up, and I think it can actually spring a bit of a surprise. So I'm going to have a little bit on this one, and hopefully it can get the chockies. And forgetting my SuperCoach team, get a bit of money up for me. Mate, we might go into the team selections, and who are we going to do first, mine or yours?
Yours will be up first.
Mine will be up first. All right, guys. So basically, I've put this together over the last half an hour. This is a very, very rough copy. It's been a massive day for me, and just with regards to obviously the editing that goes into these videos and the graphics and everything like that, really need to do the filming on a Wednesday night, just because it can be so hard to get that filming in and editing and to have the video out for Friday so people can watch it leading into Saturday. But let's start from the top. The only odds-on pop that I've found for the weekend in Brutal. Now, this is a horse that won a couple of weeks ago. Now, this race is... God, I can't even remember what it's called. I think it's the Sydney Stakes, but look, don't hold me to that. At the moment, look, I've got the captain on it there. Again, that could change. It was actually the last horse I picked in this race. I did have In Her Time in. But at the odds, look, I just sort of couldn't risk it, with SuperCoach. I think you've sort of got to go the more favoured runners, because if you do pick that sort of horse of difference or that point of difference, when it's a roughie and it goes down, you can really regret that decision, because you lose sort of yardage on the field. So I'm 90 points behind first already. I can't really take those risks. I'm actually trying to win this one, so as ridiculous as that sounds. But look, you've got Brutal there, 400,000. It's taken the top spot price-wise. In the Everest. So in the Everest, I've gone with Arcadia Queen. Now, Arcadia Queen, fantastic horse from WA, has really performed well since it's come across from WA to Sydney. Short price in the Everest. I think it's the second favourite at the moment at $4.80 behind Santa Ana Lane, which is $4.60. So the reason I've really gone this is the price. Most of your horses in the Everest are around that sort of 500 to 450,000. They're in that sort of really top echelon. And Arcadia Queen is just that little bit more affordable. There's another horse in the race which came out of the Brutal race a couple of weeks ago. It started a short price favourite in that, in Classique Legend. Look, it's 300,000. It may be another one you find in a few teams, with people trying to, I guess, afford a more affordable horse, and that chance at 40 points. But, I'm going to go with Arcadia Queen in the Everest. Now, in Melbourne, in one of the races there, I've gone with Pahutakawa. Look, it's in the market. I'm pretty sure it might be either favourite or second favourite at the moment. This is out of the Godolphin yard with James Cummings. Really good horse. This ran well a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just hoping that it can back up that performance. So priced at $275,000. Again, this week is really going to be about managing your salary cap. So I've gone with Pahutakawa. In Sydney, in the Craven Plate, I've gone with Summerdout. Now, again, this is based on that price there of $275,000. A couple of weeks ago, Very Elegant won a race in Sydney, and this was the horse that beat by a nose. Now, that race as well was over 2,000 metres, so it's proven it can run the distance. That was my biggest concern that day. Very Elegant is a really, really class horse, so the fact that it got up right on the line to beat this one, I do like Summerdout. I'm just hoping it's not too far into its preparation. What I mean by that, guys, is I think we've spoken about grand finals and things like that before, but this horse I think is about fifth up now. Horses, as they go through a preparation, some horses perform well first up, second up. Other horses take a few runs to get going. This horse has obviously been performing fairly well through its preparation, so I hope it hasn't used all of those good performances and can really put in another one. Now, one of the horses I'm really, really keen on, and this is in Melbourne, is Soothing. Now, again, another one out of the Godolphin yard with James Cummings. I've followed this horse for a couple of years now, and it's won a few listed races. So basically just below that Group 3 level. It does jump up into Group 3 level here in Melbourne. It is the favourite in the race. I think it's about $2.80. It may drift, it may shorten, look, from a market mover point of view, but I do just really like this horse, and I'm hoping that this will actually be one that too many other people don't have. Look, priced at $275,000 at $2.80, there will be a sort of fair ownership, maybe 8 or 10%, but I'm just hoping it doesn't sort of creep up into that 20 or 30% ownership. Another I've gone is Desert Lord. Now, this came out of the Epsom, which Colding won a couple of weeks ago. I think it ran 9th in that race, but it's got a lot of form around Colding and Tiakau Shark and those sort of good horses out of that race. Now, going down to Melbourne, look, it's got a nice lightweight on its board. I think Dwayne Dunn's riding it. I think he's up for a big day down in Melbourne, and I think this is one of the winners you can get. I love the price on this at $200,000. And again, this is more just about that sort of fine balance between the team. There are other horses I'd love to have it more expensive, instead of this horse. But needing something around that 150, 200,000, there are a few runners in that mark. This is the one I've settled on. Now, God of Thunder is racing in the Caulfield Sprint down in Melbourne. So a Group 2 race, and I've gone with that one there. Now, I think it's second favourite at the moment, $4.80 the quote is, $175,000. Nice cheap horse in a race where you can pick up some points. Just hoping it performs for quite a young horse and inexperienced. Hopefully it can step up to that group level. Another one there we've got is Snap Dancer. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Bogan had this in his stable. Are we allowed to say copyright on BJ and Game Day, mate? That we got copyright? for the Tina Turner, and here it goes again, guys. Snap Dancer. Snap Dancer. But, guys, obviously on YouTube, we do use a bit of footage, a few things here or there. We try our best to avoid some copyright issues. The NRL Supercoach season, we got done a couple of times, and it's a little bit harder with NRL, but I think Tina, as long as she's making some money out of us, she'll be happy. But yeah, that's one I've gone with there. Snap Dancer at 150,000. And then the final two that I've gone are both 125,000. Now, Miami Bound, again, a few people had it a couple of weeks ago, ran down in Melbourne, ran third that day at a short price favourite. Actually, I think it was about $2.80 or $3. It's a similar quote, and it actually steps up in distance from 1,600 to 2,000 metres. That is a bit of a query for me. It did get run down that day in Melbourne, so I'm hoping it's gotten, I guess, a little bit fitter and can run that 2,000 metres out. But again, at the price, considering the odds, I think it'll probably be the most picked horse this week. And the final one is actually, I couldn't find another group runner. My first 9 horses are all in group races, trying to get the bigger points. The last horse there is Postcode. Actually, this is another one that's odds on at the moment. I mentioned Brutal was the only one. This is the second one for the weekend. It's in the first race in Sydney. I think it's the Victory Vane Stakes. This raced in the 2-year-old races a couple of weeks ago and was very, very impressive coming home. Didn't get the chockies that day. Did run second, but it was a huge run. And again, I think a lot of people are going to have this in their stable. Probably not as many as Miami Bound, because at the end of the day, this one's only running for 18 points for a win. So yeah, I think this will find its way into a few stables. So guys, look, that's the makeup of my team. As I say, it's sort of been picked in the last half an hour to 45 minutes. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I'm sure I'll find 1 or 2 horses to change. As I say, I did have In Her Time in there, but trying to find a horse for that 50 or 75,000 I couldn't do. So I switched In Her Time to Arcadia Queen, and that got me to Postcode. So, mate, that's my team, buddy. What do you got to follow up with?
Well, I picked mine purely off names, but what you might notice, I picked Arcadia Queen as well.
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
sorry.
And that was enough to make Josh.
Beautiful.
Purely based off arcades. I've been playing a lot of arcade games, so I went, okay, Arcadia Queen, pick that.
Fuck me. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Hey, good, like I said, as good a reason as any.
I have no idea what races these horses are in. The second one up was Come Play With Me, for obvious reasons.
Yep. Okay. So Come Play With Me is in the St. Ledger. So the ATC St. Ledger. Folks at home would have seen this horse win the Metropolitan a couple of weeks ago. That was a Group 1 race. You got 40 points for the win. The ATC St. Ledger is over 200 metres further, which won't bother it, but it's only a listed race. So instead of getting 40 points for a win, you will only get 18. Now, a lot of the horses out of that race are in this race as well. So they're all dropping down in class with regards to the race, but it just means you won't get as many points for a win. Mate, what's the third horse there? I actually can't see that top line. There's an icon on my screen.
That would be Big Duke from Ireland.
Big Duke. Okay, so same race. It's in the same race? No, it's not. Is it?
I think there is a few that are in the same race.
Anyway, it's either in the Caulfield Cup or the ATC Cup. Look, Big Duke, good stayer. Probably hasn't performed well for a couple of years now, mate. So that might be one I'd be switching out. But hey, the Duke, why not?
I put that in for Duke Nukem. Fourth one, Dothraki, for an obvious Game of Thrones reference there with the Dothraki there.
Now, for any form followers at home, this is actually this is in the Brutal race. So the race that Brutal's $1.85 for. Dothraki, I think it's about 15 to 1. But fun fact is, last preparation, second up, which Brutal is, Dothraki and Brutal were in the same race, and Dothraki beat Brutal. So funnier things have happened, but mate, even though a roughy chance, I actually don't mind that pick whatsoever.
Next up is Victorum.
Victorum? Actually, what's your reasoning behind this one, mate?
Because I got mixed up with my Latin and thought it was Victorium, which is a saying from the Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout.
Ad Victorium. Ad Victorium. Ad Victorium.
But then I realised that I was getting my Latin wrong.
Fair enough. Mate, Victorium. Now, this horse is in the Kosciuszko. Similar to the Everest, this is actually another race that has SuperCoach status as a group race. So, as an everyday race, it's only just a listed race. Because it's been running less than 3 years, it cannot have group status yet. Now, for SuperCoach, though, much like the Silver Eagle last year, it was a Group 2, and this week the Everest is Group 1. The Kosciuszko has been classified as a Group 3 race for Supercoaches. So instead of 18 points for the win here, you will get 24 points for the win. And Victorium is currently the favourite for that race. Last year's running of the race, the first 3 horses were all about 20 or 30 to 1. A little bit of background behind this race. These are horses that don't race in metropolitan areas that often. It's actually, as you can imagine from the terms Everest and Kosciuszko, it's actually the provincial version of the Everest. So the winner of this race gets about 680,000, but they're all country horses rather than city horses. So generally you'll see them that 1 or 2 steps below ability-wise.
I am immortal.
I am immortal. I have inside me blood of kings.
Never heard of it.
Picked for the song "Princess of the Universe" by Queen, which has that line in there. Probably get another copyright strike when I cut that in.
Fighting for survival.
Actually, I went to trivia tonight.
Yeah.
Went to trivia tonight, out with the missus, went out for a bit of dinner, a bit of trivia. And the Who Am I question was Freddie Mercury. And they got about 8 clues in, and no one had a fucking clue. But, mate, the clues they were coming up with were ridiculous. He performed at a Royal Ballet and got freaking kicked out of Zanzibar or somewhere. Anyway, move on.
Then we start to get into the cheapies with Jenkins.
Jenkins?
Yep, picked for the old Leroy Jenkins World of Warcraft meme.
Down quick. I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating, of course, percentage of survival.
Oh, that's a lot better than we usually do.
All right, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Save him! Oh, gee, stick to the plane!
Oh, Jesus. Let's go. Stick to the plan, Chubs.
Stick to the plane!
Oh, gee. Oh, fuck. Give me divine intervention. Hurry up.
So never heard of it. He's only $150,000. I don't know what race he's in. Next up was Vegas Jewel.
He's in one of them. Yep.
Vegas Jewel from New Zealand.
Same. Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Another 150 grand picked because Fallout New Vegas.
From where you're kneeling must seem like an 18-carat run of bad luck. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
Next up, Don't Give a Damn. How can someone who picks horses like me not pick Don't Give a Damn?
Actually, I was doing a little bit of the form at work today, and I saw this horse, and I thought that's a cracker. So, mate, I'm actually glad you picked that one based on the name, because on the form or the race, I don't think I could have picked it, but it's good to see it's in someone's team.
And final horse is Up Trumps. Just because the Don, you can't mention Trump without having 100 people jump out of the woodwork and get upset with you.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States. President Obama is the ex-president. And Mr. Trump, for the moment, steps away for the inaugural address. What a great honor to be able to introduce for the first time ever anywhere the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald.
Mate, my 7-year-old actually at the dinner table yesterday, she was telling me a story at school, and one of the kids had mentioned Donald Trump, and I said to her, do you know who that person is? And she's, yeah, like, he's the president of the world. And I said, no, he's not the president of the world. He's the president of the United States, but close enough. But she proceeded to give him an absolute pasting after that. And look, I sort of pulled her up. I said, look, he's an important man, as much of a lunatic as he is. He's doing the best job he can. But we won't get too political.
We won't get too political.
Declared before.
I will just say though, as Australians, it doesn't really affect us too much. The US foreign policy doesn't seem to change much, but. Definitely, you should love the US president if you're a lover of comedy. That's for sure.
Definitely, he's come out with plenty of good ones. That's for sure. All right, so there's two teams, guys and girls at home. We might just run through the BJ and Game Day League now, mate. Have we got?
I'll bring up the graphics, but I've got the screens.
So all right, top spot. We've got Tiger for Life with Glenn now.
He's tied with Beard to be feared, and Tiger for Life are tied at 859 points apiece.
I swear Gleno's name last week was Street Ruffian because I couldn't find the same guy, same colours, same name for first name. No, Glenn, the guy Tiger for Life.
Tiger for Life.
I'm pretty sure his name last week was Street Ruffian. Now, I didn't know you could change your name, but he was positioned above me last week, and he went well again this week. So I'm assuming that's him. So obviously, Gleno, you find yourself in the top 100 there. So well done. And who's the beard to be feared? What's his name?
Nathan with the beard to be feared, and their overall ranks. Apparently, they're both equal in that too. 52nd spot. I suppose that makes sense. They're both 859.
I tell you what, boys, if you do take it out, now obviously I mentioned anyone who beats me overall in this league, I'll donate $50 to the Thai England, whatever the foundation is there for that lad. That wasn't each person, that was just overall. But if any of you lads win it, I challenge you to donate another 50. Obviously, if you win the comp overall, you're picking up 25 grand. $50 is a small price to pay, but anyone on the BJ League, if you do take out the chockies, I'm sure that's the least you could do.
So Nathan and Glenn there, they've got the gold and silver. They're sharing both of those medals, and you've got just Insider, Justin's team, sitting in third spot.
Great drink, that one.
He had a big round. He had a big round last week with 329 points. Which has taken him to 838 points, 219th overall.
Look, that bloke's out here. Look, obviously BJ and Game Day. We love the Brent, Josh. We love the Bogan, Josh. We also love the BJs. Just Insider, mate. He's got to enter into the BJ Hall of Fame, surely.
For top names.
I've been Just Insider a few times before, and if I was any bigger, I'd be a long way Insider. But I've done all right.
Yeah. Well, let's not mention who's sitting in fourth then. So
fourth, yes, mate. If those blokes don't run the Quinella, I'm beat. She will reign come Just Insider. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I tell you what we might do. I tell you what I'm going to do. Actually, this is what I'm going to do now. Anyone who's been in racing before might know what a phantom calling is. Now, a phantom calling, usually they do it ahead of a really, really big race, right? You might have the Melbourne Cup or the Cox Plate. First time I ever heard one was at the Grafton Greyhounds on the Village Green Cup, and we used to get together the night before the race, and what you'd have is you'd have the race caller come out and he'd do a phantom race call. So basically the way he looked at the race, he'd do a phantom race call. Now, we're getting a few stables in the league now. We're up to 42, and I'm sure after this video we might get a few more. The Grand National's a race that has about 50 horses in it when it's at full capacity. What I might do is I might do a phantom call of the BJ and Game Day Cup with all the BJ and RaceDay stables as the names of the racehorses. So Tiger for Life, Just Insider, She Will Reign Come. Now, guys and girls, obviously it's no secret I'm a big punter. I love my punt. I love my greyhounds. I've owned plenty over the years and a couple of horses as well.
You've also got Manly Men Love Beaver sitting just above you.
It just works. It just works. So I've got my little background in journalism with that degree, and one day I thought I'd become a little, I guess, broadcaster or race caller. I might start now. So I tell you what, a little bit before Melbourne Cup, we might do a phantom race call of the BJ on RaceDay Cup. So something for the folks at home. But mate, what else have we got? Is that about it for this week?
That's about it for this week. Obviously, stay tuned to the socials, and Joshy will get those runners out, so you can pick your horses a little bit closer to the day. Obviously, our teams will probably change between now and Saturday when the races start, as horses get scratched, and I realise that none of my horses are any good. And
look, guys, well, mate, plenty of roughies have won. We've seen that.
As I said, though, I picked
the first few weeks. So.
I picked Grey Worm last week, based purely off the Game of Thrones reference, and he got up. So I'll take that.
There you go. But guys, yeah, as Bogan said, keep an eye out on all the social media pages. I'll have all the points bet graphics up in the next couple of days. Yeah, simple as that. We'll put out the jockeys. We'll put out all the races. Hopefully that helps a few people with picking your teams. And look, it's going to be vital this week. As I say, salary cap management this week is going to be massive. What we've seen the last few weeks with similar teams, this week you might have a few, but plenty of people are going to have their own sort of way about it. If you're going to pick Senna and Elaine, for example, the favourite in the Everest, well, there's 500,000 of your cap gone. So that's a big, big chunk. I know plenty of people have had sort of upgrades in salary caps. I think I'm up to just under 2.4 million now. I've seen the biggest in the comps about just over 2.5. So he's obviously going to have an advantage. That's the other thing, is obviously the more winners you pick, the bigger advantage you get. So the leader of the comp is going to have a huge advantage there. I think he was the one with 2.5 million, or maybe it was second place. So make sure you pick right, guys, and try and get those winners.
Yeah.
But, guys, that's it for another week. Week 4 of BJ and Race Day. Thanks very much for joining us. Make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Click the
bell on YouTube so you get all the notifications. And we will catch you all next week. Cheers, guys.